Frank in Charlotte, North Carolina. Currently, I'm the Director for Evangelization and Adult Education, which means that I coordinate different programs, especially the lay ministry formation program throughout the diocese, as well as serve as a consultant for parishes in evangelization matters. I'm not sure exactly when the call started. I know that I came from a very religious family. My family would go to church all the time. My family is Spanish background, and I grew up with that in Miami, and went to Catholic school. Then through college, I had my rebellious years. When I came back from college, I started getting involved in my parish, and through that involvement in my parish and being involved in the young adult ministry there, I found that what I was doing in young adult ministry was more fulfilling than the work that I was doing in the bank. I liked banking, but there was something that would happen when I was involved in different ministerial activities that we were doing. So I kind of felt that God was starting to call me to a more full-time ministry. I went to the seminary for 5 years, and right before the ordination to priesthood, I felt that while God was calling me to ministry, I didn't feel that the ordained ministry was it. So since that time, I have been involved in different archdiocesan and diocesan positions. And all of them for me have been a way of trying to fulfill that call that I heard. That's a difficult question to answer. The main way of answering it is prayer is very important, and being grounded in prayer, being grounded in that call, trying to remember that this is coming from God, because at times it's very easy to forget. Being grounded in different like-minded individuals, in my co-ministers. That's very important in the sense of the fellowship, the companionship. Having people with you that understand that reality and are willing to share with you, and especially not only share the highs, but be able to sympathize and understand the lows. And that becomes very important. Without that community of individuals, where you're able to not only share your prayer life, but also share the struggles as well as the joys of it, I think it would be very, very difficult for me.
And do you see a role of formation in sustaining you in ministry? Anything in your background of your studies or your current formation?
I think I go back to a couple of things. My formation itself, one of the most important things that happened to me when I was taking the class on the prophets in the seminary, a semester-long class, the focus that the instructor had was looking at the call of the prophets. He said, it's very interesting, if you look throughout the prophetic literature, you're going to see that many of the books have the call of the prophet themselves. And it's very strange that they would have that call in there. But his theory was that the prophets needed to have that there to remind them of the call, because as the ministry is carried out, it's very easy to forget. And for me, that always stayed with me, that it's very important for me to remain grounded in the fact that there is a call, this isn't coming from me, that it's coming from something outside of me, and to remember that, because that's one of the first things that is easy to forget. So that part of formation I always bring with me. In being involved in formation, there is also something about not only sharing that reality with others, but seeing when somebody actually gets it, when they go through and all of a sudden there is a transformation, there is that aha moment when they all of a sudden realize that, oh, I'm not just here learning about. This is something that is moving me towards being part of a bigger picture. It comes from outside of me, and I am involved in something bigger than myself. And when I see other people realizing that, and they get that, and they realize that this is ministry and not just some work that they're doing or some knowledge that they're getting, and that there is something bigger than them at work here, then that also sustains me in a certain way, because it helps me to see, oh yes, the fruits are there. If you feel that God is calling you, listen to that voice. I really like the idea that, well, there are two Bible passages that I really like. One is the encounter of Elijah with that small voice. And the voice of God sometimes is that small whisper. But listen to that small whisper and those nudgings and those promptings, because there is something at work there. And follow through. I found that while I may not understand, as I'm being involved in it, I find that there's something fulfilling that itself is sustaining. So don't be afraid to follow that. The other passage that I like is a little bit harder, and it may not be for those that are starting out, but those that go a little bit further. And that's the prophet Jeremiah, when he begins with, "You duped me, O Lord, and I allowed myself to be duped." And I think sometimes there's that reality that you feel that God conned you into this. What has God got me into it? But the passage continues, and it's like, well, I say I will no longer speak of him, but then the voice is inside me, and I have to open my mouth and proclaim it. And for me, that's what ministry is. It's not only listening to the promptings of God, it's something that's natural. And if you really start listening to it, after a while, you really can't help yourself. It's as natural as breathing. And when you continue with that, even though there may be low times, you'll realize that you just have to do it.